Chaotic, turbulent, complex, dynamic. These are just a few adjectives we could use to describe modern society. And apparently it's not going to get any less complex. What's in store for us? What's in store for the next generations? Hi, I was reading this article about 5 long-term trends that are certainly going to shape the future of our society. And as I read the article, I thought, hey, this might be a very good way to explain the main difference between the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. So why don't you just join me while I show you this article? And here we go with this very nice article written by Carmen Ang in the Visual Capitalist. 5 undeniable long-term trends shaping society's future, December 4th, 2020. So we're talking about 9 months ago. The first trend she points out is the fact that our worldwide population is getting older. Yes, it's getting bigger, of course. We're practically 8 billion people on this planet. And the same population is also getting older and older. It's been getting older for a while already. If you look at 1970, we see that the median age was 21.5 years. And then, if you look at 2020, about a year ago, this population, the median age, was 30.9 years. This is to say that in 50 years, this population got a decade older. So in 50 years, we got almost a decade older. This is actually what she says here when she wrote this article using the present perfect. Of course, she was talking about what was present at the time, that the population had grown by almost a decade. Well, if we push to the moment we are recording this video now, which is September 2021, then we can say, yes, I guess we can drop the word almost and say that the population has gotten a decade older, most likely. And here we talk about grammar. I just want to say that the main difference, the difference that really matters about the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous, is that the present perfect simple is about how much, how many. It's about a completed idea. It's about completion. So here I could say that this population has gotten a decade older. As I'm using a decade, which is an amount of time, which is a number, 10 years, I just cannot use the present perfect continuous. I'm using the present perfect simple. The population has gotten a decade older because I'm quantifying it. It's a completed idea. How much older has the population gotten in these last 51 years? It's gotten a decade older. And it's been getting older for a longer period of time, probably before in the 1970s. And then we move on and we, of course, see the consequences it's going to bring to many pension systems all over the world, right? This is not going to be an easy thing to solve. If you take a look here in this last sentence, we see that in the US, the share of multi-generational family households has been rising steadily. How long has it been rising steadily? Since the 1970s. Once again, present perfect continuous, because I'm talking about how long. We should all notice that when I'm talking about how long, we tend to prefer the present perfect continuous. But it wouldn't be wrong to say this population or the share of multi-generation family households has risen steadily. It would be okay. The opposite, though, is not true. We're going to see that later. We move on to the second trend, which is urban evolution. Take a look at this graph and you see that in the 1800s, about 90% of the world's population lived in rural areas. But this has been changing over time, especially within the last century. I always said this century, yeah, but it's last century. And if we look at the present time, it's about 50% maybe, a little less maybe, 50% of the world population lives in a rural area. Okay, and so this brings us to the rise of mega cities. I was just checking how big a city has to be labeled a mega city, and most websites say that it's about 10 million people. Anyway, in the 70s we had about 4 mega cities, and now we have over 20 mega cities all over the world, and they've been just growing and growing and growing. If you take a look here, the median population size of the world's top 100 cities has been growing steadily. Once again, present perfect continuous. I could say has grown steadily. It wouldn't be a problem. But once again, the opposite is not true. We're gonna see more about that. So we come to the third trend, which is rising middle class. This is something good, I guess, right? Many people are leaving poverty and they are coming into our global middle class, and it's been happening very fast. But that doesn't mean that the world has become a fairer place to live. If we take a look at the fourth trend, we see that wealth inequality is still a trend. It's been rising. Over the last few decades, the wealth of America's top 10% has increased by billions. Here we have the present perfect simple. Why? Because I'm talking about how much this wealth has increased, and the answer is by billions. And this is what I was talking about. In this case, I couldn't use the present perfect continuous because I am establishing an amount. I'm saying here how much, and in this case I cannot use the present perfect continuous or progressive. Alright, and here they give us some reasons for this. Basically, now the top 10% of the population owns basically 90% of all the stocks and mutual funds, all the equities in the market. And then, surprise, surprise, we get to our fifth and last trend, which is environmental pressures. Well, look at this. Since the year 1850, the global average temperature of land areas has risen twice as fast as the global average. I'm not really able to give you more details and more technical and give you more technical information about that. I'm going to stick to my goal here, which is talking about the difference between the present perfect simple and continuous. And then we see here present perfect simple. Why? Because it's stating here how fast this temperature has risen. And then I couldn't use the present perfect continuous. That would sound a bit odd. Well, and here we come to the end of this article. I felt really tempted to go into some more political aspects, but that's not my objective here. I hope you have enjoyed, and I really invite you to explore this website. And one more last thing, I almost forgot. In English we have something called state verbs or stated verbs. These verbs, like know, believe, understand, they are the opposite of action verbs, and they are not normally used with the ing form. That means you're not going to use the present continuous, you're not going to use the present perfect continuous with these verbs. Well, thank you for watching, and if you have really enjoyed the video, I would be honored to have your like. And maybe, who knows, you might even subscribe to the channel.